You already did the hard part. You wrote the book, but the truth is, and this is the truth nobody tells you, invisible books don't build businesses. It's not about writing more. It's about being found more. Visibility is where value comes from. Let's talk about that today. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. Over the course of the last 40 years, I've worked with more than 5,000 authors to help them know the truth. And that's that clarity and visibility is where they need to be in order to powerfully show up. And it doesn't matter whether you are the guru of gurus or you are the best kept secret in your industry. Until you are visible, all the value that you have, and you absolutely do have it, all of that value in the world, it doesn't do anybody any good, not especially you. And so today, what I really want to help you see is how to be able to really use that book the way that it was meant to be used, to really do the things that only you can do and show up in the way that only you can show up as, so that you can make the impact that you were meant to make. Does that sound good to you? Because remember, you already did the hard part. You already wrote the book. You already have it available, and maybe you even made it a bestseller. Now what you need to do is have a plan to really truly use that book to do all the things that you know you were meant to do in this world. So let's jump into that. See, here's the deal. And I know, because I know you've seen all of them too. You see all of the write your book in 5 seconds, write your book today, become a bestseller in the next half an hour, come to this webinar. I even have a webinar that I have done over and over again. Write your bestseller in 1 hour. And we can write that book in the hour. The truth of the matter is that really it's kind of more of the outline, although I have had people that have written their whole entire book in that hour. And I can tell you from experience, from me having done it, if you were to walk yourself, if you understand the process of what I do in that webinar, you can self-interview yourself. And in an hour, you can get pretty much basically the whole content for your book. Because one of the things I teach in that is having a huger book, having a 4, 5, 6,000 page book, that doesn't make you more credible. In fact, people are looking for shorter books. They like the short reads. Amazon statistics tell us that if your book in print is 100 pages or less, it's about 60% of people that will finish the book. If your book is is around 101 to 200 pages, it's about 20%. And if the book goes over 200 pages, it's less than 3% of people that ever finish your book. Now, here's the great news. You've got a long book and you're like, oh, okay, there are definitely some solutions that I can help you with that too. Maybe you need to do like we did with Marjorie, and maybe what you need to do with your giant book is it really needs to be a 3-book series. And we did that. And Marjorie, all 3 of her books became #1 bestsellers. So now she's a 3-time #1 bestseller. Plus the books became more consumable, more usable. There is a whole lot of cool things we can do to get people to not just get your book, but to engage with your book. Okay? Because your book is the best, the only business card that you can give out that's going to really truly impact people's lives. You see, if you get a little business card, and I don't even have one here on my desk anymore, I don't think. I was looking on my desk just to see if there haven't been one random one, but I used to always have, like 5 or 6 or 8, business cards sitting in the corner here, but I just don't even have business cards on my desk, and I'm not talking about mine. I haven't bought business cards of my own for forever, but, we just don't, and so what happens? You go to a networking event, you come home with 20, 10, 20, 50, 100, whatever, business cards. And at most, okay, and this is if you have the systems in place. There are lots of cool systems you can use where you can just pretty well go through the stack of them, take pictures of them, and the system will enter them directly into your into your management, your customer management solution, your CMS, or what have you, and then you can stay in contact with them. Really, what most of us do is we put it there, and we mean to enter their information. We mean to get back to the people. We maybe even were articulate enough to be able to flip their card over and and write on it. Maybe we were smart enough to move to the more digital level of that, where you take a selfie with the person, and then you send a text back and forth, so you now not only have that person's name, but you also can remember their face, and you're like, oh yeah, we met at the at the Agenic convention, or we met at the Joe Does barbecue event, whatever, and you can kind of have that conversation. Those all work. But here's the thing, okay? How many text messages do you get a day? How many business cards, if you're still getting them, like you said, I don't even see myself getting them anymore. But, I don't go to the networking events like I used to either, because I live in the middle of nowhere. But that's a whole different story. How many business cards do you have shoved in a drawer? They sit on your desk, and then after a while you push them in a drawer, or you push them into, the circular file. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that phrase, that's the garbage can, by the way. And that's just the nature of business cards. But when somebody hands you their book, okay, now this is the old version of this. I'm rewriting Bestsellers Only in the Beginning. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to show you the new cover. Oh, I'm so excited about it. Oh my gosh. But your book, whether it's this book or, the book that Willie and I did together, Magnetized Media, that is something that you just aren't going to throw away. You go to the event and the person goes, oh yeah, here. And sometimes those get donated to Goodwill. Sometimes they make it in the free bin at a garage sale. But we always feel, I don't know, kind of like we're Nazis or something if we throw a book away, right? And so it still is the very best. And okay, and I was actually talking with Judy, who I'm so blessed to have Judy in my life, and to have her be the story developer that brings magic to your book. You absolutely need Judy to work with you, okay? And I'm so, so blessed that she's part of our company. She is going to help you bring that fire, that magic, that awesomeness into your book that it was missing. Absolutely. I promise you that, and she just got another glowing testimonial from the person whose book came out today, which if you go up or down, whichever it is on my scroll, you can see the live that Derek and I did, and you could get his book for free today too. But I was telling Judy about that. I was trying to remember, why was I talking about Judy? I got totally distracted, being so grateful for how amazing she is. I was telling Judy today, it's like, what we need to understand is when we send somebody to a landing page, and I'm talking about cold, like, you do an ad, or whatever other kind of way you're getting people to that landing page. You go on a podcast and you talk and what have you, okay? So if you do it via an ad, all right, let's just use, for example, a Facebook ad, and you spend X amount of dollars, you get a person to view your ad and click on the link in your ad. Then you've got to have this landing page that instantly grabs their attention. Because we know from research, I've been a marketing company for 40 years, we know that we have about 7 seconds to capture the person's attention, or they go away. Okay. And then we know we have about 15 seconds to, convince them that they want to continue scrolling. So 7 seconds to capture their attention, about 15 seconds to get them to, because typically a landing page, even if you have a call to action that's above the fold, meaning that, without scrolling, you can see the link. Almost every landing page is going to have, the scroll down capability, and Usually, I mean, there's testimonials and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff that makes up a good landing page on there. So 7 seconds to get them to not just hit the backup button, and 15 seconds, and that's total. So that includes that first 7 seconds to get them to, feel convinced enough about what you say in there to scroll down. Now, I'm going to turn a statistic that I've told you many times over on its head when I start talking about this particular statistic, because now let's think about a book. Okay. Now, statistically, we know from Amazon that if your book is 100 pages or less, about 60% of the people that get the book will finish the book. If the book is between 101 and 200 pages, that drops to around 20%. And if your book is over 200 pages long, it's less than 3% of people that will ever finish your book. Okay. Now that's a reality, and that's a truth. And that has to do with, how much should we really put in our book? And as I always tell people, content is king. The book may need to be 25 pages. It may need to be 500 pages. It just really kind of depends on the particular book and what you're doing. Like, for example, Carl Michel's book, 365 Hip Hop, which, by the way, is still in the top 50. The book came out January. Well, I mean, technically it came out at the end of December. We did the marketing launch day for the book January 1st, 2016. Okay, that means that it's getting ready to come on its 10-year anniversary, and it's still and has consistently been on the bestseller list. Okay, so it isn't one of those one and done, here today, ghosting you tomorrow kind of situations. And we can bring that kind of fire to you because it's everything that you do after you make the book a bestseller that keeps the book a bestseller. And we have those kind of things. But when the person gets the book, and even if they're in that 3% that never finish it, okay, we began to start reaching out and building true know, like, and trust with people. Because very rarely, every once in a while, and this is actually good too, every once in a while we'll pick up a book and it may look interesting by its cover, or maybe, like the book that I'm thinking of specifically, my aunt gave to my mom to read. And I think she said she read 2 pages of it. It was just like, why am I wasting my time doing this? It was a particular book that, she kind of felt like she had to read it because her sister had given it to her, not that she really wanted to read it. And we all have been in that place. Okay, but typically speaking, we don't just read a page or 2 of a book. Now a lot of books, we will get half, a third, whatever the way through, and it'll fall off. I've got a book that's in my other drawer that's over there on the other side of my desk. That was the book, and it's a fiction book. It was the book that I was reading when my, then mother-in-law's, was in chemo. And every time I was the one sitting with her in the chemo room, I would often read that book. And I'm about halfway through that book, and I probably will never finish the book. I mean, I'd probably really need to start back at the beginning because, she passed away, oh my gosh, before we moved to Cali. So 2015, early 2016, I think is that. Yeah, 2016. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah. And it's one of those kind of things. Again, yeah, anyway, okay. Sorry, totally distracted myself by that whole thought. Anyway, but the point is that, especially when we're talking about a nonfiction book, so we're talking about you promoting your business, the more that, stopping by to say what's up. Hey, Willie J, I'm so glad to have you here. The number one new release single, Only Imagine, Couldn't Imagine. I always get that name wrong. Couldn't Imagine, by the one and only Willie J, who's gracing us with his presence here today. Thanks for stopping by, brother. I appreciate you. But I mean, it's true. We buy from people that we know, like, and trust, and we begin to endear the person with us as they begin to read that book. And I want you to think about your book as gaining permission to get more of that person's time. So You get them to read the first page and they're like, oh, hey, that's cool. And then you get them to read the first chapter and they're like, I would like to know more. And we move them on through that process. And I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this too, I think a lot of times we just have this stuff we want to say and we don't really think about it from the other standpoint of, hey, let's now reverse engineer this thing and look at the reader experience and what do I need to do to help and support and encourage them. And when the things are difficult, to give them room to breathe, to give them room to take it in, to create not just lessons at the end of it, but spaces for them to reflect and think back on and that kind of stuff. And we can do all of that in a book. So that then when we get to the end of the book and we make an offer at the end of that book, because good marketing says that every time you do something with somebody, at the end of it, you should always have and here's what we could do together next. Okay. And a lot of us are guilty of not having done that. But that's what we really need to do. That's good marketing. And we just lead them step by step. And so they then do read the whole book. Okay, imagine if they're in that 3% though, and they only read just a little bit of it. You see, they now know your heart and soul. And yeah, there are going to be some of those people that are going to be like the book I was talking about with my mom, where it's like, this isn't me. And they're going to delete themselves from your followers. And that's helpful too. I love how Don Crowther put it. He said, the best thing somebody can do is to identify themselves as somebody who's not part of my community. That's powerful too. I love Seth Godin's quote, better to have 100 raving fans than 10,000 people who could care less. And our book allows us to create those raving fans. One page at a time, one phrase at a time, one section at a time, we're gaining their their trust, their connection to us. And your business card is never going to do that. It's just a piece of cardboard. That was my best personal friend, Spam Risk, who we all get calls from all the time these days, right? That business card that's in your drawer, and I probably could reach over here. I probably still have some in my drawer here or in that one that's on the other side of the desk. And I probably should have pulled one out for this, but that business card, it gives you their contact information. Maybe it has a cute design on it. Maybe it has a really catchy phrase on it. Or maybe they even went, where like they do with some business cards where they put something highly motivational on the back of the card. And, maybe that motivational quote really means something to you. And maybe, you flip it over and you have that and you look at that all the time. Maybe you've even pasted it to your, your monitor because it's just that encouraging and powerful to you. But how, and that's going to make connection. That's a small example of the massive connection that your words in your book. And now I know you're saying, well, yeah, what if the book's a nonfiction? There's nothing more connecting than somebody that we entertain and we delight and we amaze. Think of how many people around the world are fans of Tolkien and Lewis and J.K. Rowling and Terry Brooks and Neil Gaiman. And you can tell what kind of genre of books I mostly read, right? Brene Brown's followers, John Maxwell's follower. John Maxwell has 100 books because John Maxwell has demand for more books. Zig Ziglar wrote a bunch of books because Zig Ziglar wanted to pour out what he was doing into the world. Your book is the most powerful trust builder you will ever have in this world. We make it number one so that it begins the credibility of it. And so that you have that certificate, that diploma, that PhD in, you being you, really. It's like, making you Dr. You, like we've talked about many times. But then we need consistent visibility. And that's what most books are lacking. They have that amazing stuff. And if we could just only get it into people's hands. And yeah, you know, take 5 or 10 copies with you next time you go to a networking event. And specifically, when you connect to somebody, give them a copy of your book versus just your business card. Absolutely. But let's look at ways that you can do that on a massive worldwide scale. I've got that for you. If you're ready to be amplified like that, DM the word amplify or put the word amplify in the comments. I don't care how old your book is. I don't care if it's 1 minute old or 20 years old. We can revive it. We can help you make it start working again and build the know, like, and trust that like nothing else ever can or ever will that your book does. And you need to do that. So DM or comment the word amplify. DM or comment the word amplify to me right now, because your book was never the problem. Being visible was. Let's fix that so that you can make the difference in this world that you were meant to make. And let your story finally start selling you. Okay? Let's do it. Please do drop the word amplify in the comments or in a DM to me. Let's get you going right now. I've got an amazing opportunity for you right now, and you do not want to miss out on it. And you want to get a hold of it now, because we're entering into the Christmas shopping season. Now's when you want your stuff to be visible so that you can both talk to them and get them to know, like, and trust you in that process. But then also during the Christmas time, ask and have the thing that they want for Christmas be to work with you. You absolutely want to. People are spending money this time of year. No matter what the economy says, even with the government shutdown, people are still going to spend money. They're going to find a way, even if it's on credit cards, what have you. People will spend and invest the money. And I know you're going to make a difference in their life. So let it be you. Drop the word amplify. Let's make it be you right now. Until we're together again next time, I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and you have a great week.